Hello, my friends. This is Just Alice TV show, and Simplemente Alicia is a Colombian. She is a Colombian series that just uh, dropped like yesterday, and I have just watched a few episodes, but I already like this TV show so much. So let's talk about who Alice is and what her double life is. Basically, Alice leading double life not only when it comes to her relationship, but she basically studies at a university and she is basically getting two higher degrees at the same time. So this is just in the core of her character, trying to basically get everything at the same time. And her why choose mentality is defying the character and her choices. She is not capable of just choose something. She prefers to pursue two things at the same time. This is why she basically chose studying marketing and political science simultaneously. And she's being torn between two different, uh, subjects. So she's trying basically to, manage to do everything. But she's failing, of course, because of the pressure and the stress is just too much for a single person. And basically, her friends and specifically this woman at whose wedding basically Alice and Suzanne basically reunited, and Suzanne basically confronting Alice because of her choices and her preferences in men because of her past relationship. And one of Suzanne's friend, like childhood friend, ran into her at this wedding basically, outside of that hotel or restaurant. I'm not sure, but they immediately just hit it off, but she didn't recognize him, that it was really just a friend of hers. And they were basically going to the same school when they were 8 years old. But despite not remembering who he is, basically, she preferred to go with this stranger just to have fun, because that wedding was just not it, and she preferred to go find another place to hang out. And they went basically partying somewhere else and spent basically time together. And that man, Alejo, is a writer, and basically he as well lives double life because he lives in New York, US. At the same time, he comes back to Colombia, Bogota, and this is his lifestyle, which is similar kind of to Alice in her lifestyle, because she prefers to live that double life, but she doesn't know yet, but she realized later that this is the brother of her friend, and her friend at whose wedding they were basically immediately just, of course, recognized her brother because he is not often coming back to Colombia, but he made this surprise for his sister, and at the same time he ran into Alice, who is a friend of his sister. And of course, Alice now, she has this crush on her friend's brother, Alejo, but her friend Suzanne is trying kind of to stop her from making the same mistake because of her previous relationship ended up on such a like bad point, because basically her previous man just left her and ran away, and she's trying kind of to worry her and prevent her from making this mistake again. But she's not really listening because she believes that basically Alejo changed since basically when they were 8 years old, since their childhood and school, everything has changed. So she's preferring basically to go with Alejo and take this opportunity to start a new relationship. But Suzanne still kind of confronting Alice because of the feeling of trouble just looming, inevitable trouble. And she persistent, and she basically is a lesbian. She is not even dating men, but she sees like her friend basically, getting into the same trouble again and again, and she's kind of trying to worry her to not make the same mistake. But at the same time, basically for Alice, it's not only about the relationship with Alejo, it's about basically her, personality, and how she is so like spontaneous, and basically she's trying to, do a lot of things at the same time when it comes to her studying, to her relationship, to everything. She is trying to basically, manage too much. And basically, Alejo, after he came back to New York, he immediately returned to Bogota, Colombia, because he found out that his sister basically, she gave birth to her baby, and he came back to celebrate it, and he reunited with Alice. And basically, at that point, they were already 2 months into this relationship. But Alejo, as a writer, he is going back and forth to US, and basically his career is kind of has a lot of traveling, and this is somehow complicating the relationship. And Alice basically suggesting that she can basically go with Alejo together to US, that she has not been to US for so long, and she basically hinting at possibility to go together with him, but she is not explicitly like asking him to go together to the US. But basically Alejo is kind of suspicious because he is not immediately like kind of asking her to come with him to the US. He is not explicitly, or like he is not willing to take her with him. And this is kind of putting that mysterious, aspect of this relationship, and making this like relationship to be even more struggling because of him going back to US, and she is staying in Colombia, and she is pursuing her 2 degrees at the same time. She is basically she's kind of trying to not being dependent on anybody. So she's looking for that, possibility to open her own agency, because she is currently working on an agency and she's selling basically consulting assistance for politicians. And before basically before that, she basically assisted a council member. And after that job, basically, she had another one. And now she is trying to find her own clients. She is working like a freelancer, but she wants basically to open her own agency. And she's using this like coffee shop to find clients, but she's failing basically. And Alejo basically offering her to work not from that coffee shop because it's definitely not working. He is offering her basically to take one of his offices, and she is not willing just to take advantage of Alejo, and she basically suggests him to rent his office, his, office which is not taken by anybody. And this way she will not be dependent on him, and she will pursue her own, career. And basically once she graduated from that university, Alejo basically, he made another surprise, and he came back to her graduation, and he basically bought her a ticket to the US, and now they are going to US together. Finally, basically, he is ready to take her to the US. And after they went to the US, Las Vegas, they got married there, basically. And this is so similar to False Profile TV show. If you know Colombian TV show False Profile, you will immediately recognize the similarities in how basically the first season of False Profile basically just literally started with a main character going to Las Vegas from Colombia or something like this, and meeting there a man basically who is leading double life. But in this case, Alice, she is leading double life, but not yet. At this point, she was just dating Alejo, and she got married to Alejo, so it wasn't like a double relationship. But the similarities, they are just so obvious because of the two Colombian TV shows, just because they are focusing on same kind of thing, but making it, doing this like from different perspectives. In False Profile, that was from the perspective of a man, and in this TV show, it's from perspective of a woman, Alice, who is leading double life. And basically, later, after basically they were already married, after they got married, they basically came back to Colombia, of course, and she's still trying to pursue her career. And by an accident, she ran into a politician who is running for president of Colombia. And she basically managed to make this man basically to notice her and to offer her a job and he basically offered her to come to his office and to show her project, you know. And he basically was so like rushing to get there in time, you know. And he basically got into an incident with police, and basically she got this like huge fine and she needs to pay this. And while she wasn't really able to pay this fine, she was trying to find another way basically to not get any criminal record, because this like would potentially spoil her career and make it not possible to get the job because of the criminal record. And basically at the same time her friend Suzanne is breaking up with her girlfriend, and basically while trying to help her friend Alice, she's kind of not able to, you know, keep her relationship. And her friend is kind of, you know, taking care of Alice, but at the same time, she's so like, you know, overprotecting Suzanne. Suzanne is overprotecting Alice. But Alice is kind of, you know, more free-spirited and not seeing like any problem in even dating a man from their school, whom basically they hated back then, but she believes that he has changed now. But her previous relationship basically ended up on such bad points, and basically because of that, Suzanne basically still sees basically Alejo as the same type of person who can, you know, potentially just run away and do the same thing. And this is why she's like kind of overprotecting Alice. But Alice basically, she convinced a man who is running for president, that person who basically gave her that opportunity, she convinced him that she's ready to work with his team basically. And they basically hired her, but she needs to get rid of that criminal record, and that fine that she got after that incident with the police needs to be paid or get rid of. So she went basically to pay that fine, but she was trying to remove that fine like forever from her record, because any criminal record just potentially can prevent her from getting the job as an assistant for a politician who basically running for president. So she was offered to take volunteer hours at basically she was offered to take volunteer hours at a community service, and by basically completing those volunteer hours, she will basically remove her fine. He will basically remove that from her record and keep it the way it was before getting into the trouble with the police. And once basically she went to that community service, she ran into her ex, the one that basically ran away from her. And That happened in Cartagena, Colombia, I believe, and he is a director of this community service right now. And basically, of course, after she told him basically that she needs just to complete her volunteer hours and get out of this place, because she basically she has not basically forgiven him for what he did. But despite that, basically, she kind of felt something again, and she basically couldn't really resist him, and she kissed Pablo, who is currently basically, her boss, because this community service is his initiative. But he basically told her that he has changed completely since that point, since their relationship, and the way they basically broke up made him take on completely different lifestyle, and basically he became a priest after that relationship with Alice. So she basically couldn't even kiss her because of his priesthood rules or whatever. I don't know exactly how it works, but now basically she sees him as a completely different man, who is basically running this community service and who is a member of priesthood, and this potentially setting a new basically possibility for her to pursue this relationship and to start her double life at this point, because Alejo is already married to Alice, but despite that, basically, she is willing to start this relationship with Pablo again. And basically, this is the main events of Just Alice episode 2. But this TV show basically has 20 or 19 episodes. And while it's just too much, I'm gonna watch all of them and to make one more video about this show, because the TV show is just stretched, of course, so much, and 20 episodes is just a lot. But I think that, the subject, the idea of a woman leading double life, pursuing 2 degrees at the same time, trying to basically find her position in politician, in the political, on the political scene. She's trying to find basically everything at the same time. She's not really solidifying something she has already found. She's trying basically to immediately shift focus on something else, but at the same time, basically, it's making her personality interesting, because of her not able to just, enjoy one thing and immediately looking for something more, something bigger. She's potentially losing that something she has already found. But like the TV show, it is not completely, I would say it's not like completely about just her trying to, pursue two men at the same time. It's more about I would say it's more about the complexity of how basically any relationship is just not perfect. You cannot basically keep something the way it was when you just met someone, and she's trying basically, to kind of shake up things. And when she met Pablo again, basically she realized that she still has that, feeling, and she's gonna pursue him because of that feeling. But I'm not seeing her like a woman who is taking advantages of a man, because this is in contrary what she's trying to, get rid of. The possibility of taking advantage of Alejo or Pablo is not what she's looking for. She's trying to basically study to different degrees. She's trying to basically get to different degrees. She's trying to open her own agency. And this is basically contradicts to a woman who is just taking advantage of another person. So this is what about the Just Alice series, and we will come back with one more episodes. Of course, not all 20, but maybe the most interesting episodes will be perfect. Thank you. Goodbye.